RuneScape is changing at an incredible pace this year, and that could not be more true than for Ironman accounts who are saying goodbye to old staples, but also hello to new methods that will open up new pathways of progression. I want to experience the new age of RuneScape in its entirety, which makes this the perfect time to revisit Hardcore Ironman, RuneScape's most difficult game mode, and see how quickly we can adapt to the rapidly changing state of the game. I have played a Hardcore in the past, and there's only one thing I have to say about that.
How did this happen? We're smarter than this.
Apparently not.
I hope I'm smarter now. I have a few goals in mind for this new Hardcore, and the first of those is to surpass my old Ironman, Zappy Kritia, without dying. But let's take a step back. We're only in episode 1 after all. We need a much more reasonable goal to work towards today. For example, unlocking one of the most important bosses in the game for Ironman, the Gate of Elidinis. Survival means access to food, mostly via GP for various food shops, and getting that health bar above the level where a stiff breeze would have us resetting. The GP solution hasn't changed much. The strongholds of security and player safety give us an initial 20k GP to work with, and the lamps from the latter help us jump up to 10 smithing, alongside making a few bronze arrowheads. These will be relevant later. The bulk of your early game gold, however, will come from doing a handful of the free-to-play quests that give quite an inflated number of quest points. Quests like Earnest a Chicken, Druidic Ritual, Goblin Diplomacy, and Gunner's Ground give 4 or 5 quest points each and allow you to claim your first dice from May's Caravan. However, I will not be taking that dice, or any of them, thanks to the peer pressure of Twitch chat. More seriously, I want to actually engage with money making on an Ironman early on as a mere curiosity. And since Wilderness Flash events are a thing of the past, all I have to do is not take May's dice to enable that. If you want to progress as quickly as possible, take the dice. So that's gold sorted, but what about bulking up a bit? By doing the Necromancy intro quest, we're able to claim a free set of tier 10 armor, which has a hit point bonus of 500 in total. Similarly, by doing the Archaeology tutorial, we get access to our first Archaeology relic, which gives us another boost of 500 hit points. Now we should be good to survive some of the more dangerous parts of the early game. Our next little step is to do some necromancy. Damn it, that was a misclick. Oh, you can't sell them back. No. I have made a terrible mistake. I need money now. Random thieving arc, go. Well, that's what I get for my hubris with the dice, I guess. I wanted to buy ritual supplies to train Necromancy up and get the Underworld Grimoire, but instead we're going on a quick tour of some early game pickpocketing. I tried a variety of early game pickpocketing mobs to make some GP, and oh man, did they nail the thieving update. Actually being able to pickpocket at low levels is massive for the account, especially since they nerfed Old Reliable, aka the doors. In terms of some early cash, Ham members at 15 thieving actually ended up being pretty solid, not in terms of raw GP, but in giving some iron and steel items I could sell to the general store. At level 25 thieving though, we unlocked Alcarid Warriors, which dropped nothing but GP and a pretty okay amount of it. Going forward, I'll be pickpocketing these quite a bit to build up some early GP, at least until we get to 42 thieving, which we'll get to later. With my money issues resolved, it was time to get back to working on Necromancy. My previous Ironman actually chose to ignore Necromancy in favor of a heavily magic-focused early game. This time, however, Necromancy has some jobs to do. Notably, most of its questline which are prereqs for the Ode of the Devourer, which then unlocks the Gate of Elidinis boss encounter. In the short term, we need to complete Rune Mythos and Killy Row, introductory quests for Necromancy runecrafting and gear upgrading respectively. These are requirements for some of the easy Underworld tasks, which, by completing those, then lets us claim the Underworld Grimoire, a pocket slot item that can automatically bank bones, big bones, and ashes. Since we now have the ability to upgrade our necromancy gear, I decided to go and get 20 defense at some cows, using the cow hide to gain some crafting levels, and then upgrade all our armor to tier 20 so that we get a bigger life point bonus from it. I wrapped up my first day on the hardcore by knocking out some weeklies, which makes now a great time to give a TLDR on what this account is doing in terms of dailies. Nothing. The account was made a month before the Dailyscape update dropped, but since we had the blog outlining some of the changes, I just followed that as if it were patch notes. And since we already know auras are getting the axe soon, we're not using those either. So you won't be seeing any Jacker trades from me this time. As for the weeklies I chose to do, the most important ones to do early game are the Circus, for agility, range, and magic XP, and Herby Werby for herblore XP. Since we started this account on a Tuesday, I could do these back to back for some nice early levels. The other way to get some nice early levels is by questing. But let's avoid this section just turning into a quest complete spam by focusing more on what skills we targeted and why. If you're interested in the exact quests done, I'll have a link in the description to my plan for the first few days on this account. It'll come as no surprise that crafting and smithing were my two most targeted skills, since they're required to upgrade your necromancy gear. Firstly, for smithing, I did Plague City into the Night Sword, which is why we used the lamps earlier on smithing, since we need to smith the iron bar ourselves for this quest. Then for crafting, I tackled the usual arrangement of early game crafting quests, such as Murder Mystery, Observatory Quest, and Dwarf Cannon. Getting the levels from these quests then unlocks the ability to do the Elemental Workshop quests, which are some of the absolute best sources of early game smithing and crafting XP. Once we're up to 25 crafting and smithing, we can now upgrade our necromancy gear to tier 30, at which point we're good to tackle the combat focus quests such as Witch's House, Waterfall, and the Grand Tree to start boosting up our other combat stats. There's one quest in particular that's a little bit of a meme, but the rewards from it are far from it. Evil Dave's Big Day Out requires 30 agility, magic, herblore, and cooking, but rewards a total of 110k XP split among those 4 skills. Not a single point of this is going to waste, as agility and herblore are painful to train, magic is a requirement for Gate and High Alchemy, and cooking, well, iron's gotta eat. In order to do this quest, we need to do basically every other early game quest involving Evil Dave. So, Shadow of the Storm, Recipe for Disaster, at least to the point of freeing him. And if you want a quick way to get the Fruit Blast for Recipe for Disaster, you can get one from the Dig Site quest by showing off your Hard Study Force certificates to this guy. Once Evil Dave's been freed, we can swap bodies with him, have him almost get our body destroyed, and swap back for the juicy reward. The 50k magic XP we got from that quest leads us on nicely to one of our next goals, 55 magic for High Alchemy, since I'm perpetually broke at the moment. There are 2 other big quests for magic XP at this point. The Watchtower quest requires a dragon bone, so be careful getting hold of one of those, and the Eyes of Gluffrey, which needs you to make a mud rune. The most consistent way I've found to get one of these is to just make it yourself. None of the drop sources at this point are either accessible enough or reliable enough. After doing those quests, the rest of the levels will have to come from a bit of grinding, but at 50 magic we can buy mystic weaponry to make training a breeze. We also did a couple of quests to set up future training. Fairy Tale Part 1 gives us the farming level required to start working on the player-owned farm, which is something we will definitely be revisiting later in the video. And Animal Magnetism, which is not only essential for using the ranged combat style due to the ammo recovery, it also opens up a shop that sells iron and steel arrowheads, very useful for some early fletching training. Slayer is always something I enjoy on any account, and this account is going to be no exception. I'm going to be approaching it quite similarly to my previous Ironman, unlocking the 4 and progressing its questline to the point that the Raptor becomes a Slayer Master. Not only does the Raptor offer some of the best Slayer points early on, the tasks are also some of the best, with a heavy focus on undead and many tasks being able to be done at fetid zombies, which are not only easy to kill, but great XP. If we're going to be doing Slayer, however, we need to get our overheads sorted. And that means thieving is going to prove its worth once more. Although, you might be wondering, why is our thieving level so high already? That'd be because I've been using Archaeology druids as an AFK activity to stock up on seeds and hunt for the mystical sand seed, an infinite teleport item straight to the Garden of Carid herb patch. The payoff for the thieving training is that we can open the rogue's chest in the wilderness, which gives some rather great early supplies, including noted dragon bones, which we can use on the altar in the fort to get up to 40 free prayer for all the overheads. As for actually training Slayer, I ended up doing a bit of Slayer point shenaniganry, doing your first 9 tasks at Jacqueline to get boosted points from Raptor on the 10th. I then also made sure to stop the Raptor task midway when I hit the level requirement for Smoking Hills, so that I could make sure that the Smoking Hills point boost applied to the task. However, during Smoking Hills we got our first truly spooky incident. No way. Okay. I just teleported to Smithy like 6 times and that. And that is why I always wear a Ring of Life now on a hardcore. Doesn't matter if I'm doing something that is 100% safe. A server DC doesn't play by those rules. After giving the servers a day to sort their lives out, we upgraded our Necromancy weapons, went back and finished off Smoking Hills, before getting back to doing some Raptor tasks to work on our first reward that we're going to be buying with Slayer points, a Ring of Slaying. This ring can be used after the Haunted Mine quest to teleport to Tarn's lair, and once you defeat Tarn, you can upgrade the salve amulets you unlocked from the Haunted Mine to give more stats and a larger boost in accuracy and damage against the undead. This amulet is one of the reasons why I think Raptor is the best early game Slayer master, because while you're using low level weapons and struggling for accuracy, this amulet just punches way above its weight and allows you to absolutely decimate undead. Like thieving and the doors, farming has also lost its free pass through early game due to the nerf to beehives, which we can now use at 35 farming with woad leaves, and they are indeed worth using at that point, but they'll only be giving us about 6k XP a day instead of getting us to Chinchompas in just a couple days. So, in order to get farming progressing, we need to take a look at the quest list again and find Forgettable Tale of a Drunken Dwarf and Garden of Tranquility. Both of these quests were released around the same time as farming, which means they include it as part of their gameplay and rewards. Now, I could debate all day about whether or not waiting half an hour is a good quest step or not, but the quests do get us up to 33 farming, which is only a little short of the 35 needed to start using beehives. To get the last couple of levels, we gathered some roses at Het's Oasis, which not only gives us a consistent source of farming XP, but we can use the roses later on when we get to Hunter. At this point, we also started doing herb runs, utilizing teleports such as the Mystical Sand Seed from Archaeology druids, the Wilderness Sword from the Easy Wilderness Diary, and the Ectophile from Gosahoy to get to some of the herb patches as quickly as possible. Herb runs give a token amount of farming XP, but we're mainly doing them to start building our herb collection for when we tackle herb lore without Dailyscape. And finally, we started working on the player-owned farm, putting woad leaves in the beehives and growing whatever animals we could to start getting as much farming XP as possible to unlock Chinchompas ASAP. Farming via the POF is a bit of an exponential grind. Early on, the animals don't give very much, later on they give absolutely tons of XP. So it's one of the things that the quicker you start it, the quicker you will start reaping the rewards from the better animals. So that's why we're focusing on getting up and running as quickly as possible. Since farming is now progressing, we can start looking towards one of the nicest quality of life quests in the early game, Succession, which in total requires 50 farming 60 mining, 60 smithing, 40 divination, and 40 archaeology. I've been doing some archaeology as an AFK activity in the background, but given we'll be going for 86 archaeology later in the episode, I think I'll go through all of 1 to 86 archaeology in one nice clean segment later on, rather than scattering it throughout the video. As for mining and smithing, it's pretty straightforward. Mine the ores, smith the boots. And yes, boots. I like to train smithing as AFK as possible, and the way to do this is to only advance to the next metal once you've unlocked the ability to create items at maximum heat for that metal. That way, you can make full inventories of boots in a single tick and AFK for 20 plus minutes while they get smithed. It would be slightly faster to upgrade metal as soon as possible and make full burial sets for the slight bonus to burying an entire set instead of individual items, but the amount of faff that requires compared to the maximum heat method is so not worth it in my opinion. With our mining and smithing leveled up to 60 for orichalcum bars, we're now able to upgrade our necromancy gear to tier 60, and at this point I felt comfortable to start doing Reaper tasks. I don't plan on boosting any methods with my other accounts, otherwise we would have been doing Reaper tasks way sooner than this. For the divination requirement, I can't do caches as they were still the daily form, but there was an XP buff to early game wisps, so surely training divination now isn't that bad, right? Unfortunately, it still sucks. The level 20 wisps give about 11k XP an hour while sacrificing energies. For reference, mining coal at level 20 is about 25k XP an hour, and you get to keep the coal. I don't think this is a hot take to say that training a gathering skill while sacrificing the resources should be more XP per hour than training one and keeping them, rather than less than half. But with how minuscule the buffs were to divination in the early game rebalance, the message is loud and clear that training divination normally has to suck for some reason. To get around this, I ended up doing a non-daily skip method known as the Memorial to Guthix, where you can charge engrams with energy and hand them in for divination XP. Doing the first 4 engrams got us up to 40 divination, but I did sacrifice getting better XP later on by handing these in at a higher level. And I can't do these 4 again until I get access to all the energy types and use the prestige system. Unfortunately, that's going to require access to incandescent energy, which is either 95 divination or Telos, both of which are quite a way away. With all the skill requirements ticked off, it was now a case of just sending the questline, starting with Daughter of Chaos into the Civil War mini-quests. And while the first Civil War just requires killing some demons in the wilderness, the second requires doing a wilderness flash event, which I have banned myself from doing because they're going away. So here's how I ended up dealing with that. Okay, in order to complete Walk on the Wild Side to continue with Civil War, which is a requirement I'm assuming they're just going to delete. If they add another requirement to it, I will just complete that when they do. But because I am playing this account as if there are no buildy events, what I am doing is I'm just going to take this XP lamp and I'm going to destroy it. I'm going to take the sack of Wild Rods and I'm going to destroy it. And therefore we have gained nothing from that buildy event apart from the checkbox for Civil War Part 2. I need to get 50 farming really badly, and POF is not gonna cut it. Sheep have a problem where, even though they grow to Elder pretty quick, it's about 2 hours, you then can't get the XP from them for another many hours, like nearly a day, because they don't have enough happiness and health yet. They have to build that up by eating food over time, so it takes about a day for them to max out and give their full XP, which is then still not a lot. So even though you could theoretically grow like 8 rounds of sheep in a day if you were awake for 16 hours, you're not gonna check them all for XP because they're not gonna give the full XP. This is kind of a fix they did ages ago to stop people just getting tons of XP without feeding animals. But it's really screwed up early game POF. It gives barely any XP. The animals are clearly balanced around giving their XP in their time to reach Elder, but they don't give that full XP in that time. So we need another way to augment it, and this is kind of going to be it. It is slow. I'm not going to deny that. It is a slow method, but it is a method we can actively do, and it is quicker than POF, and it's quicker than herb runs. In addition to a little bit of Het's Oasis, I did keep up with birdhouses, and that's where we inevitably got the 50 farming. Civil War 3 is going to require us to go and talk to the Cruxacow druids and start their little progression thing. It's also going to require us to buy the first upgrade from the shop, which needs us to grow herbs after we've started talking to them. And if we don't have the daily herb, it's going to take multiple herb runs. So, this shop, we need to buy plant power tier 1, which means we need to... I don't think I can grow Avento. I can! Please tell me we have Avento seeds. We have Avento seeds! Remember how I said before that I wasn't a big fan of wait 30 minutes as a quest step? How about wait 80? Because that's what we have to do now. And my excitement about the Avento seeds is literally just that I don't have to do it twice. Exchange the find. They're green and leafy. Excellent. We told them that herbs are green and leafy, so now we can continue with Civil War. Okay, we just about won. Atrocious fight, by the way, if you don't have the abilities unlocked for... Because, like, you're using a sword and a shield, right? Which already reduces how many abilities you have access to. Oh my god, I keep the life point loss outside of... Wait, no. Don't you put me into desert heat. There we go. Succession has been complete, so we fully unlocked the Infernal Puzzle Box. Which means, very importantly, we have all the damage buffs in the wilderness, is one part of it that's great. Most importantly, though, our adrenaline no longer drains outside of combat. And we get access to the dive ability, which is Surge, but good. Succession also gives a combat lamp I want to put into magic and a generic lamp I want to put into herblore, but the requirements for both of those lamps are level 60, so we're just going to be destroying those for now, and then you can come back here and reclaim them later. The 60 magic level requirement for the lamp made me decide to go and get 60 magic by doing some Slayer tasks. Not only for that lamp, but also so I can go and get the Gothic staff from the mage arena in the wilderness. I then decided to test the staff at Cerberus in ED4 to see if we could start token farming. Unsurprisingly, our damage was terrible, so that's on the back burner for now. Another skill with a rebalanced early game is Hunter, and we have two things to do with it. Firstly, we want to get a breeding pair of Chinchompers. While we could wait for the Trapper to bring these to us, that could be months, and that's months without getting the farming level for higher tier herbs, so we'll just be hunting them ourselves. Secondly, should we get the level required, we can do Big Game Hunter to hunt for a Dragon Mattock, which will be a big boost to doing Archaeology at level 60, and an even bigger boost with the Mkando Mattock at 80. The meta for Hunter early game is now birds. They've been updated to be more consistently catched, and oddly, Tropical Wagtails caught an XP nerf in this process. Regardless, we do these to level 30, at which point we grab our roses from earlier and start hunting whirligigs. Now, whirligigs did get nerfed, quite heavily, but it didn't actually kill them as a method. If you're a main and you're able to buy the flowers, or happen to have gathered the flowers for farming levels, they're still the best thing to be catching at their given levels. However, at 50, I tested if it was worth the time to gather the flowers explicitly for catching whirligigs, and it's a resounding no. While they're the best XP per hour available while catching them, the ratio of time spent catching to gathering the flowers required is completely out of whack. So at 53, we moved over to Grey Chinchompers, and we started the hunt for POF Chinchompers. We were actually quite lucky to see not one, but 2 grey chins in our first 800 catches. Unfortunately, that was a short-lived burst of luck when both chins turned out to be male, and the hunt began for a female. Since we had gotten up to 58 Hunter from this, I decided to use Red Salamanders to speed up the process of getting to 63 Hunter, and move on over to Red Chins. A Red Chin in your breeding pair is invaluable to start collecting the ranged ammunition for training, and making mechanized chins later on, especially with the changes that were made to consumption rate in the combat update. To say that our luck took a downturn at this point is an understatement. We spent about 14 hours catching red chins in total, before this happened. Guys, it's a red chin. It's a red chin. It exists. It's not bugged. Please be female. Yay! It's female. Ah, we're free. We're done. We're free. If that was male, I would have been so broken. I'm so happy. 4,500 red chins later, and we have our breeding pair. And 76 hunter to go alongside it. Which means we've unlocked the ability to do big game hunter. We just need to, once again, take advantage of thieving to get some raw sharks from the RD Castle chests and head on over to Anachronia. Now, we might be able to do big game hunter, but we're definitely fighting a bit of an uphill battle with it. With only a rune hatchet and none of the upgrades from the base camp, the hunts are slow, but at least we're getting them down, which means we can start rolling on the loot. Reinforced dinosaur pelts. Of all the things to get as a drop, that is for the tier 3 hunter lodge, yeah. Like, that's what you... Wait, hang on, what? TY for the grats. It is a good drop to get. I am happy, yay. But also, like, after all that with the chin, really? We get spooned a 98 farming animal we can't use yet. But I don't want... I also, if I want to go do as a first resort, I need to get a load more fire making levels, and that's just... Oh, and there's the compass arrow. I'm getting literally everything from these guys. Just not the mattock yet. So I'm gonna keep going, and I'm like, look at this. I got the reinforced dinosaur pelt, the compass arrow, and a POF animal, and a totem of treasure piece. I mean, yeah, treasure totem is real good. Double would be rough with low inventory space and... Another totem piece? Really? And more stinkshroom spores. Why am I getting all the totem pieces so quickly? I mean, I guess at least that means I don't have to chase them later, but like... Can I see a different lucky item? Like a red one, perhaps? Or is that greedy? Might be a little greedy. Okay, we're just about to hit 60 woodcutting, and this is going to be the end of the road for training woodcutting until we get our fletching up for log boxes, because Acacias are the last tree that are near a bank/deposit box. Mahoganies are on the other side of a fairy ring, and if you don't have a log box for that, you're going to be banking way too frequently. So we definitely got to work on fletching at some point. But the main reason I'm doing this is I want to have a better hatchet for Big Game Hunter. We weren't originally planning to do Big Game Hunter, but now we're actually doing it and going for the Dragon Mattock, doing a few things to make my life during Big Game Hunter just a little bit easier, definitely greatly appreciated. And one of those is upgrading our hatchet, which we're about to do in one more log. There it is. It didn't auto-change in our hand. I'm kind of surprised about that. But now we have an Archaeology hatchet, which somehow looks way less impressive than the rune one. It's just a red-tipped hatchet, whereas the rune one is way more decorative. Odd, but it's a much better hatchet. That's all we need to know. And that means we are perfectly on track to hit up the next hour of Arcane Apiterosaurs. Yo! The Dragon Mattock drop happened. There it is. We got it. We got the Dragon Mattock. That is absolutely insane. Okay, to understand just how good the Dragon Mattock is, and its upgrades, notably the Mkando Mattock is the one we'll be getting. The Orichalcum Mattock is the same level, but its precision and focus are 40 and 3 compared to 50 and 4 for the Dragon Mattock. basically, the way the Dragon Mattock and its upgrades, the Crystal Mattock and Imkando Mattock work, are that they basically act as 10 tiers above their level requirement. So a Dragon Mattock requires level 60, but it acts like a level 70 Mattock. So, since we don't have Invention and can't augment it, this is basically a Necronium Mattock. But once we get access to the Warforged dig site and get up to about level 81 is where we'll be able to boost to the 83 level requirement, we'll be able to upgrade this to the Imkando Mattock, which acts as a tier 90 or an Elder Rune Mattock, and we'll be able to use that at level 81. So, a minor upgrade for now. We could have just got some smithing levels and made a Necronium Mattock once we get a couple more Archaeology levels. But it means for the next few Archaeology levels we get a better Mattock, and then once we hit 80, we get a much better Mattock. With the Dragon Mattock obtained, there's now nothing standing in our way of going all the way to 86 Archaeology, except the feeling of dread in my gut. From about levels 1 to 70 Archaeology, following the wiki's guideline for how many restored artifacts are required from each spot does give enough XP for your levels to keep up. In the process, you complete the Zerosian 1 collections, unlocking the Reputation buff relic, the Zamorakian 1 collection, which unlocks Pouch Protector, and Saradominist 1, which gives you the Lock of Hair for the Berserker's Fury relic. At level 60, you get access to the Sentiston dig site, which is kinda weird since you need 74 to dig into this place during the City of Sentiston quest, but this is the first dig site I fully completed, doing all the collections and mysteries. One of those mysteries, Secrets of the Inquisition, unlocks the Shadow's Grace relic, which halves the cooldown of Surge and Dive, which feels way better than it sounds on paper. At level 70, we switch gears from targeting collections to targeting easy to restore artifacts. As we're now going to need much more than just the required restorations from each spot to keep leveling, from levels 70 to 73, I did the first Armadillion dig spot, as it follows the pattern of most first dig spots of only introducing a few materials from the new dig site, and those being used to restore the artifacts from the same spot. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for the first Warforged spot at level 76. Despite giving artifacts for one of the best collections, Green Gobbo Goodies 1, you need so much vulcanized rubber, and the spot doesn't give any leather scrap or vellum, which are both needed to restore 2 of its artifacts. And we end up running into the first real issue of doing archaeology without porters: caches. Caches are all over the world, some in decent spots and some in absolutely horrendous spots for banking the materials. I ended up avoiding any spots that required a reasonable amount of caching to get the materials required for their artifacts. Instead, we started a different new dig site, Demonheim, where we stayed from 73 to 81 Archaeology, completing the Drankin 5 collection many times over for Chronotes and Dungeoneering tokens. At 81, I finally moved to the Warforged dig site, starting to restore Ogre Kaizaj axes from the level 81 spot, with the intention of disassembling them for early invention materials once we unlock Ancient Invention. This spot also gives us the 4 Imkando Mattock pieces, so we go and get a God Banner which is able to boost any skill by 2 for 30 minutes per day, which allows us to excavate the barricade blocking off the rest of the Warforge and begin the hunt for the rest of the keys to unlock Falman's Forge. Once the forge is open, we take a red berry pie and a whole 1,000,000 coins to Furgo in exchange for the ability to make Imkando Mattocks. It's a shame we can't augment this beauty yet. I then returned to the level 81 spot until 84 Archaeology, when I swapped over to the Oikos fishing hut in the Everlight. This spot was kinda awful, since in order to bank materials I had to cross an agility obstacle. But the XP per artifact was increasing so much per level that the reasonably easy to restore fishing tridents were far too enticing to not swap to here. This spot also gives the Dominarian device, which we can give one of to Reldo in exchange for the Advaranoct, which I probably butchered, but that unlocks the Sticky Fingers relic. Given how much power is in thieving for Ironman now, an extra 50% loot per hour from pickpocketing is a no-brainer. I also went and got a couple more relics from completing the Armadillion 1 collection, which gives us the Queen Mab's Moonstone, which has the relic power of causing our herbs and mushroom patches to never be diseased. And by handing in an Avianzi Dreamcoat to Burbgod, we get the Death Ward relic power, reducing our damage taken when at lower hit points. Quite a nice relic for a hardcore. And a few more fishing tridents later, 86 Archaeology was in the bag. And while this summary may make it seem like it wasn't too bad, it took me 10 days to go from 70 to 86 Archaeology, and the amount of hours spent doing Archaeology over those days was not low. This is your warning if you want to rush Gate on a new Ironman. This grind is long, but I needed to make it short for the video. A requirement I didn't realize until closer to the time was the need for 80 smithing. This is because you need 5 greater ensouled bars for part of the Fort Forinthry questline, and you can only buy one at a time from Falmond. That said, the way to get 80 smithing was exactly the same as before. Mine the ore, smelt the boots. Just with higher level ores and boots. The other important thing we did before beginning the Necromancy and Fort Forinthry questlines was get tier 70 Necromancy tank armor and weapons. This involved doing some rituals, beating up story mode Hermod, and doing a Barrows run for the tier 70 tank task from Killy. The reasons for this upgrade are 2 quests in the Fort questline, which should not be underestimated, and I'll explain why in more detail as we get to them. The first quest up is Tomes of the Warlock, the absolute wall of a quest slap bang in the middle of the Necromancy story, and the reason you need 86 Archaeology. You restore some books, and gain some new talent options in the Well of Souls. The quest really pales in comparison to the requirements here for sure. We then move over to the Fort Forinthry questline, which we started earlier for Slayer, but now continue on with Dead and Buried, where we learn the backstory of the Raptor and find out about Ungale, a hidden island housing an ancient dragonkin weapon. This quest is followed by Ancient Awakening, the first of 2 hard/dangerous quests in this questline. During your trip to Ungale, Zemregal sends waves of undead after you and your Scooby gang, and if you aren't careful, these waves can easily combo you out. I've heard of a few hardcores getting saved by their Rings of Life during this quest, so just safe it up and let Raptor tank where possible. During Ancient Awakening, you find out that the ancient weapon is actually Vorkath, an undead dragon. And the next quest is when you fight Vorkath. Zemregal is using him to attack Fort Forinthry, so you need to fight him off. And I realized as I got to this quest that I don't actually have the ability to make anti-fires, so we sent a few elite clues to get some as a reward. You're going to want to protect from Necromancy during this fight, so anti-fires are a must. Now, the fight with Vorkath is the story mode version of the encounter, but this boss still hits like an absolute train, especially once you get into phase 3. It is a safe death according to the wiki, but I prefer not to find out for myself. With Vorkath repelled and Zemregal captured, we headed back to Ungale to do Requiem for a Dragon, where we help Vorkath pass on and go to rest in But not before some friends from Succession pop up again to do mysterious things. And finally, it's time for Ode of the Devourer. The Gate of Elidinis is being corrupted by a mascot to prevent souls from passing on, so we force Zemregal to help us and Icflarin cleanse the gate before that becomes too much of an issue. And the reward for that quest is to be able to fight the Gate of Elidinis as a skilling boss. So why did we go through all of this to unlock a skilling boss in the first few weeks of the account? Firstly, the training methods unlocked at the Gate of Elidinis are some of the best in-game. An AFK crafting method offering hundreds of thousands of XP per hour, a divination method which, while less AFK, also offers incredible rates. And then there's just fighting the boss. Getting XP in divination, agility, and mining in decent quantities while fighting the boss really adds up. And of course, the loot. The Gate of Elidinis drops 4 incredible unique items, and not one of them is a dud. From a rune crafting offhand that gives huge XP and earlier rune pouches, a divination offhand that is going to be crucial to getting charges for invention, to a skilling godbook that is going to completely change the game with upcoming skilling grinds, and a level 75 prayer that offers a source of healing pre-Soul Split. And did I mention that the common loot is absolutely cracked for Ironman? Because it is. However, to see what we achieve with this boss fight, and catch up on some of the other things we got up to on the way here, you'll have to join me in the next episode of the Hardcore Ironman.